further ado, please welcome Mr. Mike Warren, everyone. Just say something nice. Make sure the mic is on. For the camera.
Now I have to say something nice.
For the camera.
You know, I go to a lot of events, travel around the world doing a lot of events, my own events, speaking to other events, and I have to say this is a class act event. How many of you would agree? Just say yes. You're doing a great job, man.
I'm going back to bed.
Life is about relationships. And the relationships that you build and how you leverage on those can bring you to deals that you never thought of before. So I've made a lot of great friendships through JT, with JT, and the deals that we're working on are just, it would blow your mind. It really would. What I want to do today is I actually want to share with you some ways of profiting from property that you never have to buy. Raise your hand if you're a real estate investor. Okay. Well, I'm going to show you how to make money from property that you never have to buy. Would that be pretty cool? And I have to tell you, sometimes I feel like I'm a mosquito in a nudist colony. There's just so much good stuff, I just don't know where to start first. Before I get started, I want to actually tell you a little story. And this is me. I have some brothers who live down in Texas. Who are my Texas folks? Got a whole lot of you from Texas. This is amazing. So anyway, I'm down, this is when I was a little kid. I remember I'm down visiting my grandfather down in Texas, and we're sitting out on his front porch, and he's got this big porch. It's the middle of the afternoon in Texas. It's hot, it's humid. We're drinking lemonade, we're listening to the radio, and he's got this old hound dog that he had, and this hound dog's laying on his porch, except this hound dog going, oh, it would just howl like that, and then it would stop for a minute, and then a couple minutes later, oh, it's just laying on the side, and he's howling. And he's doing this, and so my grandfather and I were talking, and we're out there for several hours, and the dog just, doing the, I mean, if you can imagine this, and we're looking at this dog trying to figure out what is this dog's deal. And finally, dinner time comes around, and it's time for the dog to get up to dinner, so he's been howling all afternoon. Now he finally gets up, he goes in the house, and he has dinner. What we notice is he was laying on a rusty nail. Well, he was complaining all afternoon, right? He's got this nail poking him inside, but the pain wasn't high enough for him to do something different. He was comfortable in his uncomfortable. Raise your hand if you've ever been comfortable in being uncomfortable. So one of the things I want to try to impress upon you is thinking differently about what you do. Just because things may not have worked out for you in the past doesn't mean that's who you will be in the future and that it won't work out for you in the future. I believe each and every one of you has the potential and can get to where you want to be and where you deserve to be. How many of you, or just by a show of hands, who agrees with me that you deserve more in life? How many of you are willing to get off the rusty nail? Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see. A lot of people will talk the story. We'll see who's willing to do it. Well, let me give you just a little bit of background about me before we get started. So this is actually a picture of me and my kids. Who has kids? Anybody have kids? Okay, great. So that's my son Bryce there on the left, and that's my little girl Holly there on the right. And that's her down there also at the limousine. And what I do is I get to go on little father-son trips, daddy-daughter trips. So I take my kids on these one-on-one trips all the time. We travel all around the world, because I know that this time in their life will never happen for me again. You all get that? Yep. It's not so much that it won't happen for them, because but this moment in their life, where they're at right now, will never happen for me again. So I have to take that opportunity as soon as I can get it and do as much as I can with it. So the one with down there with Holly in the limo, that's actually me taking her to the father-daughter dance. Anybody ever go to the father-daughter dance? Anybody know what it is? Well, the father-daughter dance, for those of you that don't know what it is where I get to take my daughter to an official dance. So I take her out on a date. And she gets her hair done, gets her nails done, gets her toes done, gets a new outfit, we rent a limo, and I take her on a date because I believe that it's my job as her dad to teach her how a man should treat a woman. No one else is going to teach her the right stuff. Thank you. Holly has just an amazing head on her shoulders. She doesn't play the game. She knows the players, you know, the guy players at school. She knows what they're doing. She knows the games. And she's just not really interested. She's focused on other things, just like my son. The guy is a negotiating maniac. I mean, he just won't let up. And I think I created a monster with him. Because negotiation starts when you're really young. I remember with both Bryce and Holly, I started at McDonald's. When they would get something in a Happy Meal that wasn't right, and they didn't like it, and they'd, Daddy, I didn't get my toy, or this isn't the right burger, can you go get me another one? I said, no, I won't do it for you, but I'll do it with you. And we would go up, and they would replace the burger, and they would get the toy they'd want, and I said, okay, now what else do you want to ask? And they said, can I have another toy? And the manager looks at this, 3 or 4-year-old kid and goes, okay, and gives him one. I mean, what do you say when a little kid says, can I have another one because you messed up my previous meal? Right? And so it starts teaching them ideas of what you can do differently. I know for a fact that whenever I go out and I try to get something, I ask for information or whatever negotiation I want, I know the worst thing that somebody can say is what? No. But I know if I don't ever ask the question, what do I know the answer will be? It'll be no. So, I'm in the business. I like to, one of the ways, I mentioned this the other day, one of the ways that I like to make money is I like to make money with paper. I do buy property, but you know what? I make so much more money by buying the paper or gaining control of paper that's attached to property. How many of you like the idea of working with paper as opposed to tennis toilets and headaches? Okay. Paper is amazing. And what it's allowed me to do is also allow you to have little toys like that one. You can go drive around and have, you can travel the world, you can get the toys that you want, do the things that you want to do with the people you want to do that in the time frame and the time that you want to do it in. Is that not what we're all working for, is essentially more time? We're not working for more money. The money gives us essentially the time to do what we want to do. So we're all working for time. And what I want to emphasize, as I talk about paper here, I want you all to know something very, very important. How many of you participated, by the way, in the speed coaching when I was talking about outsourcing? Anybody? Okay. This is very important. Everything I'm about to share with you can be outsourced at $2 an hour. You do not have to do anything I'm about to share with you. Does that make this even more powerful? And let me kind of give you an idea. I'm going to tell you exactly what we're going to do. And I'm going to walk you through it. I'm looking for residential and commercial property out there anywhere in America that's currently for sale or under contract. Anybody know any properties out there in America that are for sale or under contract? Any property. Now, the next thing I look for is I look to see if there might be any judgments attached to those properties. Not mortgages, judgments. I'll talk about that in a second. I look to see if there's a judgment. I option the right to buy that judgment at a discount, and then when the property goes to closing, anywhere in America, when the property goes to closing, what do they have to do with that judgment in order to give clear title to the new buyer? You got to pay it off. Well, I own the rights to buy that judgment at a discounted amount, and when it pays off, I exercise my right to buy the judgment. Pays off at the higher amount, I buy it at the lower amount. Who keeps the difference? I do. And by the way, this cost me $1. So there is a little bit of money at stake here. How many of you like this idea? So I'm going to go in, I'll walk you through this. So just a couple more things. I've written a book here, by the way. This one's called How to Make 37% Tax-Free Without the Stock Market. One word for you on this one is called Amazon. Okay, so you guys can go get this at Amazon. And I'm also working on another book called Guerrilla Credit. I'm finishing this up with J. Conrad Levinson, who wrote all of the Guerrilla Marketing Series books. Anybody remember or ever read those books? Guerrilla Marketing? 24 million copies sold worldwide. So Jay came to me and asked me about how to, because this is what we do for folks as well, is we show them how to bootstrap their business and come up with $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 in lines of credit without using their own personal credit. Does that sound pretty cool? So that book will be coming out here before the end of the year. So let's talk about a couple definitions real quick. I want to talk about what a judgment is. A judgment is nothing more than a legal document stating that a debt is owed from one party in a lawsuit. What happened with me is when I got started, I got started back in 1985. Yes, I was 7 years old. So I got started in 1985. That was supposed to be a joke. You guys are a tough crowd. So I got started in 1985 when I lent somebody some money. They didn't pay me back. I took them to court. I got a judgment against them, or against her, and she didn't pay. Do you think there's anybody else out there in America that's in the same position? I'm going to show you what the numbers are, and you will be totally blown away at how big this industry is that nobody knows about. This is a hidden market no one else knows about. So that's an example. And how many of you have ever watched Judge Brown, Judge Judy, Judge Wapner? Remember Judge Wapner, People's Court? Okay, so that's the kind of thing we're talking about. We're also looking at something that's called a lien, which is a concrete legal assertion that you have a claim of specific value on property. So if I want to go out, or you want to go out and you want to buy your dream car, whatever kind of car that is, and you go down to the bank and you borrow the money to buy that car, will the bank place a lien on that car so you cannot sell or refinance the car without paying off the bank? Just say yes. Okay. Audience participation is required. Okay? Because some of you remember the first day when I was talking on Thursday, I had this little phrase that went kind of like this. You all have to understand that this is not a TV show. I can actually see you. Okay? So we want to have a little bit of audience participation. Well, we also have something that's called a judgment lien. Now, a judgment lien is where we actually take both of these things, we combine them together. So a judgment lien occurs when we take the judgment that an individual has, we walk it over or mail it, however you want to do it, to land records. Now, land records is where they record mortgages, easements, water and sewer liens, tax liens, things of that nature. You record it there, and it automatically places a lien on the individual or the debtor's house, so the debtor cannot sell or refinance that house without paying off the debtor. Does that sound pretty cool so far? Everybody follow what I'm talking about with the terms? So when I say the word judgment from now on, I am only talking about judgment liens. I only deal with judgment liens, but I do it in such a way that I've reduced all of my financial risk. I have sped up the process so that I have an incentive for the people to pay me off. In fact, they have to pay me off. And I get paid off quickly. Now, what I mean by quickly is it might be as quick as 7 days, but the average is probably somewhere in the 2 to 3 week time period. How many of you could use an extra $5, $10, $20,000 in the next 2 to 3 weeks with only risking $1? Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Something very, very simple. But you know, it's amazing to me. I share this technique periodically, and people screw it up all the time. It's very simple, and you mess it up anyway. So I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. I'm going to share with you exactly how you're going to mess it up, and you know what you're going to do? You're going to go out and you're going to mess it up anyway. I don't know why. This is not rocket science. I outsource the whole thing, from the front end, the back end. Well, I outsource 98% of it. I outsource the front end, the back end. I sign the checks and cash the check. That's my 2%. But I don't have to do anything else, and neither do you. So let's talk about this a little bit. The market size we're looking at is $2 trillion with a T, $2 trillion industry that nobody knows about. There's that many of them that are out there. There's an average of 350,000 judgments in each and every county, or courthouse in every county, and there's 3,300 counties in the United States. Now, you may look at it and say, well, Mike, you know, what about my county? You know what? Here's something I want you to understand. Who is not from the United States? Raise your hand. Okay, what country?
Canada.
Canada. Another country?
New Zealand.
New Zealand. Where? UK? Canada? Any other countries? UK, we got that. Anybody else? Germany. All right. So I have students in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, the Ukraine, India, Philippines, Mexico, and Canada doing this business here in the United States. So here's something I want to point out. If they can do this virtually from another country, can you do it from another county or another state? And the answer is absolutely, because I'm never looking at houses. I don't care. I don't even care what the sale price is of the house. It doesn't matter to me. And by the way, did I mention that this works on commercial property as well? Did I mention that? Oh, I guess I left that part out. So yes, it works on residential and commercial. I'll show you some liens here in just a second. So there's approximately 50,000 new judgments created each and every single year, which equates to about a $75 billion a year industry in new business alone each and every single year. That's huge. Would you like to have just a fraction of a percent of that new business? And keep in mind that you can outsource the whole thing to somebody else to do the work for you. So it's not like I'm saying, do this as a new job. You know, but let me tell you this. When I started, this is how I started in real estate and everything else. I actually started dealing with judgments, and this is how I paid my way through undergraduate school. I got 2 MBAs, paid everything, never took out a student loan, and it allowed me to have all the money, because I didn't know how to do it otherwise, in the beginning, to buy real estate. So this funded all of my activities, and I still do it today. Because what's great is I have a renewable resource every year. Do y'all get that? You have, are we a sue-happy society? Yes, unfortunate but true, but there's opportunity. Where there's opportunity, there's huge profits. So here's some of the things I look for. One, I'm looking for residential property. I'm looking for commercial property. I'm looking for property that's for sale, and I'm looking for property that's under contract. Anybody know what I mean by under contract? It means somebody, there's got a buyer. There's a buyer on the line right now that's put down a deposit. They signed a contract, said, yes, I'm willing to buy this property, and they're going to go to closing. How long till they go to closing from when they get a contract and they actually go to closing? Anybody know? 30, maybe 45 days, right? So at the worst case scenario, I'm looking at being paid here in about 45 days. How many of you think that's pretty cool? One of the things I really want you to get here is that you are never, ever buying the property. Now, I make a lot of money buying property, but I also make more money not buying the property. I talked about yesterday briefly that I make money buying pools of notes from banks as well. Y'all remember that? So there are lots of different ways to do everything. I buy pools of notes, I do tax liens in a unique way, and I make money by dealing with the debts that are attached to property. So what I do is I use something that's called an option. An option gives me the privilege or the right to buy something for a set price. And it forces the seller to sell it to me at that set price. What it does not do, and this is very important, what it does not do is it does not force me to buy something. So I could say I'm willing to buy such and such judgment from the creditor for X amount of dollars, and I'll buy it between now and the next 120 days. And if I decide not to buy it, I can walk away. So let's say I'm the superstitious type, and I go outside and I see a cloud in the shape that I don't like. Guess what? I'm not going to buy it today. I'm going to walk away. In that case, how much money do I lose? I lost $1. No big deal. So let me give you an example. Here's a property that was for sale for $325,000, had debt of $265,000, and there was a lien on the property for $6,500. There was a buyer in place to buy this property. I approached the lien holder, who was several states away, had no idea the property was for sale, which is the case in most situations. They don't know. I bought this lien for $2,400 or 37 cents on the dollar. Now, sometimes I'll go 40 cents on the dollar, but you know what? In reality, I could pay 100 cents on the dollar and still make money on this deal. Did y'all catch that? I could pay 100 cents on the dollar and still make money on this deal. So let me go through the numbers on this. $2,400 is what I agreed to pay for. And by the way, well, I'll actually talk about this in a second. I'll show you how you can make above market rates of return on your money by letting deals sit there. And I'll show you how to do this, and there are times when I do that as also. This property sold for $300,000, and does my lien get paid off? Does it get paid off at the $65,000 or the $2,400,000? Which number? Gets paid. Good. You guys got the number. So let's actually look and break it down. So the $6,500 is what pays off, plus there's $800 in interest, plus there was $100 in miscellaneous court costs that had already been accumulated on that judgment. The total payoff was $7,400, and I had a $2,400 investment. How much is my profit? I made a $5,000 profit. Now some of you may say, well, and by the way, that was in 10 days, so my rate of return was 308% in 10 days. Is that a pretty good rate of return? So you look at that and say, well, gosh, Mike, I don't know that I want to risk $2,400. This is my very first deal. Would anybody here be in that position? Come on, be proud. Participation, okay, so some of you, and I get it. Some of you understand what's going on here, but you know what? Let's eliminate the risk. So what I did is I actually optioned the right to buy this judgment from the creditor for $2,400. And I said, I'll buy it sometime between now and the next 120 days. What happens is I contact the closing attorney, the title company, and I ask the closing attorney, I say, is this judgment going to pay off? They said, yes, it is. And I said, well, how much is it going to pay off for? They said, well, it's going to pay off at $7,400. So at the closing, they have all my paperwork. Now, here's one way that everybody messes this up. You don't use the right paperwork. You mess it up. You try to go it on your own. You try to create stuff up out of thin air, and you'll mess it up. And if you don't have the right paperwork that keeps you in control of the money, what do you think is going to happen or not going to happen? You're not going to get paid. Guess how I know this? Been there, done that many, many times. Figured it out, and then I created my own paperwork so that I knew how to do this. So one way that people mess this up is you don't use the right paperwork. You must control the creditor. You must control the title company. You must be in the chain of title to make sure that you get paid. If you don't do those things, you will not get paid. One of the reasons that so many judgments that are out there in America, and by the way, you want to write these things down, okay? 80% of all the judgments that are out there in America today, 80% of that $2 trillion have not been recorded against property. Meaning that they sued the person in court, they got a judgment, but they didn't do that one little extra step by go and record it in land records. They won the judgment, but it never attached to the property. So you'll see a lot of properties in today's market being bought and sold, and the people that have the judgment never get paid off, because if it's not recorded in land records, it'll never pay off. You can't force them to pay it off. 80% of that. Is that an opportunity? So there's a gap. Well, here's another sad statistic, is that 85% of all the judgments that are out there remain unpaid. 85% of $2 trillion is unpaid. It's just sitting there. This is opportunity for us to step in with specific knowledge, step in and profit. How many of you like to profit from your knowledge? Is that a good deal? Oh, it's huge. So knowing more than the competition means there's huge profit here. So I optioned the right to buy this judgment for $2,400 sometime between now and the next 120 days. It went to closing. The title company said, Mike, hey, we see that you've got this option because we see your paperwork here. Where are you going to, cut us a check for the $2,400? We'll go ahead and do it. I said, well, here's what I would like you to do. I said, is the judgment going to pay off? They said, yes, it is. I said, how much? They said, $7,400. I said, well, out of the $7,400, what I'd like you to do is cut a check for $2,400 to the creditor, and then I'd like you to cut me a check for the difference. And they said, okay. Do they already have the cash in hand? Right. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm doing a variation of a double closing, but in a way that no title company has any issues with it, because I'm not doing a double closing on a house. I'm doing a double closing on a piece of paper. It's all kind of out there in cyberland. It's just paper, because I use specific knowledge. So the cash to buy this judgment, where did it come from? It came from the payoff proceeds, right? From the closing. Was any cash out of my pocket? $1, right? So I paid $1 for the right to buy it, but not the obligation. So I made $5,000 with $1 out of my pocket. $2,400 is what I paid for it. I made $5,000. What's the difference between the payoff of $7,400 and $2,400? What's the difference? That's my profit. Okay, I'm going to start all over just for you. The $2,400 comes from where? What's the payoff from when a buyer comes in to buy this house, and they have however much dollars that are there? The money's sitting there. So the title company uses that money to pay off the debt on the house, or the debt on this was a commercial building actually. They pay off the $265,000 out of the $300. That's where it comes from, right? What's next to be paid? The lien is paid next. Is it paid off at full value or discounted amount? Paid off at full value. So the money to pay the creditor, $2,400, came out of the payoff proceeds, which came from the buyer when they sold the property. Does everybody follow that? Okay. Is this a good deal? How many of you have ever heard of this before? This is sweet, isn't it? If you've heard about it before, it's probably because I taught you. Because nobody else out there is doing it. So, oh, that's not it. So, you guys can't really read this, can you? Yeah. Well, let me tell you what it is. These are some samples of some liens that are out there. So this, what I've got down here, there's a little note where that arrow, it says, this is on a commercial property that is currently being sold for around $10 million. It's a commercial building. Are the commercial buildings being bought and sold in today's market? All over the place. Are the residential buildings being bought and sold in today's market? All over the place. So what I'm showing here, it goes over the arrow with that little circle. That lien amount is $421,630.60. Who here would like to option this lien? So let me tell you a way that you can mess this up. Would you like to know the ways that you mess it up? Other than not having the right paperwork, here's a way that you mess it up. Is you'll go in and you'll try to negotiate this thing on your very first deal, and you'll try to negotiate at such a low amount. Because in this market, guess how much I'm actually buying these things for, or optioning them, I should say. In today's market, I option them between 3 and 5 cents on the dollar. Even though I'm still only paying $1 for the right. Oh my gosh, this is good. But 3 to 5 cents on the dollar. But here's what's going to happen. So people that, they'll end up getting home study courses I have, and they'll go out there and they'll do this kind of stuff. And where they mess it up is that they go out and they say, well, Mike can do it at 3 cents a dollar, then that's what I'm going to offer. Well, I've been doing it for 20-some years. I know every obstacle, every objection that the creditors are going to say. I've been through that so many times. It's like, I do this in my sleep. But you haven't. So what you'll do is you'll try to do it exactly the same way I do, and you're going to get frustrated when the creditor gives you an objection, you can't get a deal, and you walk away and you say, well, what Mike's teaching, it won't work. You can't buy them at that rate. It's not that it can't be bought, it's that you can't buy it, because you don't have the experience yet. How many of you understand that you need to build up some experience? If you build up your experience, and you build up your confidence, and you build up your bank account, will you feel better doing the second deal? So here's the way that I want you to do this, okay? Very important. I'm going to make it super easy. This lien for $421,000, you find one, you go in, and you ask them how much they would like to get for that judgment if you get them cash quickly. What do you think the answer is? Somebody give me a number. Percentage. Who said 50%? Raise your hand. You know what? That's the most common answer I get. They say 50%. So what they've done is they just took off $211,000 off this judgment and said, here you go. And I'm looking at it and go, sweet, $211,000. So I want you, when you go out and do your first deal, offer 50%. Or ask them what they want first, and then do it somewhere around that 50 cents on the dollar. You don't have to be down at my level, where you're getting 3 to 5 cents on the dollar. 50% is good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. When this goes to close on a $10 million billing, it's going to pay off. It's going to pay off at $421,000, which, by the way, it did. This is an old one. It pays off at $421,000. If you bought it at 50, or rather you optioned it at 50 cents on the dollar, how much do you make on this deal? About $211,000 on this deal. We haven't included any interest on this deal. This deal was several years old with interest accumulating. So just straight out, that's $211,000 with an investment on your part of how much? $1. Do y'all like this? Yeah. Okay, I'm just making sure. Here's another one. Well, actually, there's two more, so I'll read them to you since you probably can't read them back there. So the top one, that's a lien from Wren's Masonry. This is on another commercial building, so that's $149,625. One below that's a lien for $72,695. That's one for $189,532.85, and that's another one for $69,105.80. Can the liens get pretty large? Sure. Could they be at $3,000 too? Sure. I mean, here's one thing I want to point out, is that when you're working on some of these liens and you're optioning these deals, the amount of work that you put in on a $3,000 lien is going to be the same effort that you put in on a $420,000 lien. Same effort. The profit's just different, so you can focus. What I do is I don't like to turn down any deals. I look for deals that are at least 10 grand or more because I don't want to work on a small deal. I like working on large deals. So I look for large deals. So I'm just looking for any property, residential, commercial, anywhere in America that's currently for sale or under contract. Raise your hand if you think you can do what I just said. Guys, this is not rocket science. I figured this out years ago. Now, I started in the business, and I would collect on judgments, and I'd buy them. And, oh, how many of you would like to know what kind of rate of return you'd make if you bought something? You actually bought it and you kept it. Anybody be interested in knowing what kind of rate of returns you get? Okay. Audience participation. Yeah. Thank you. So here's what happens. Let's take an easy example. You go out and you buy a $10,000 judgment. And you all might want to take notes on this, okay? But you go out and you buy a $10,000 judgment, And if I buy it higher than what I would normally buy it, let's say I buy it at 10 cents on the dollar, very easy to do, by the way. There's certain scripts that I use, there's certain processes, you can follow exactly what I do. But you buy that judgment at 10 cents on the dollar. How much will you pay for it? Pay $1,000 for it. Everybody clear with me on the math? 10,000, 10%, that's $1,000. Now, interestingly enough, around the country, every judgment gains interest in every state, every county in the country. The average interest rate is 10%, goes from low of 6 to high of 18. So the average is about 10%. So 10% interest on a $10,000 judgment is how much in interest per year? It's $1,000. I'm getting $1,000 in interest. I have $1,000 that I invested. How much do I make on my money per year by doing nothing, where it sits there attached to the debtor's house where they cannot sell or refinance it without paying me off? I made 100% on my money per year in interest alone. Now, I want to point out, you might make a note of this also, is that the IRS and the Canadian, RRSP, right, allows you to buy these things inside of your retirement plans. Judgment liens, not judgments. In other words, they have to have some form of collateral to go with them. So is that a good way for me to build up my retirement plan and buy some of these judgments and let it sit there and gain 100% interest on my money? Most people have no idea that all these techniques exist. They're like, wow, I had no idea. This is pretty good. So the process is pretty simple. Let's write this. You guys want to write these down, okay? You want to find property. You research. You can do all your research online. You find the liens. You then option a lien. So I'm out looking for property anywhere in America, from any part of the world. I'm doing all my research online. I research my liens online. By the way, I can have my virtual assistants at $2 an hour do all this work for me. I option a lien. Matter of fact, so I might call the creditor to do it myself, or if I give my virtual assistant a specific script, which we do, and they follow, they can go and option that lien too. Then I have another virtual assistant who handles the paperwork, fills it all out, sends it to the creditor, gets it back, comes to me, it gets filed, and I sit back and I wait, because guess who does all the rest of the work? The title company. The title company does all the rest of the work and pays me, and I get checks every single month. So I let the title company do all the work, and then I cash my check, and then repeat it. How many of these deals do you think you could do on a weekly or monthly basis? Anybody? Well, a lot is not an answer, right? Would it be realistic that you could do 5 a month? All right, so 5 a month. Let's say an average profit. All right, so that's $5 out of your pocket, by the way, right? So let's try to do the math. Let's say that you made just a small $5,000 profit on each one of those deals. That's really small. Do you understand some of the numbers I've been going with? It's really small. So 5 times 5,000 is how much you make this month? Would this transform your life? Since it's all virtual, it would fund a whole lot of other parts of your life, wouldn't it? Maybe allow you to buy the business or grow your business, expand your current business any way that you want. So I'm just sharing with you some of the things that work for me that can work for you, or can work for all of you. And yes, I'm teaching it to all of you, but it doesn't matter. We're looking at millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of judgments that are out there in America today, right now. You all, for those of you on the computer, you could be finding them right now. It doesn't take long. I will tell you this, that doing the research, it's kind of boring. It really is. It's just, point, click, go to this website, search for this, click, click, then find it, click, 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 click. That's all you're doing is clicking with a mouse on a computer. It's boring. There's no excitement to that. But boy, you can get rich with boring. Is boring okay? All right. So, where'd it go? No, that's not it. Where's my last slide? How do I go back? Nope. What's that? I'm trying to show you my liens. I'm not pulling a Jeff. I'm trying to show you my slides. All right. So, I know I'm supposed to be... When am I supposed to get off on this up here? 1 more minute? Okay, good. So here's one of the things I want to point out. Let me kind of wrap this up. Is that you can go out, look for, let me repeat it again, look for residential, and you look for commercial property. I don't care where you live. I don't care what county you live in. I don't care what country you live in. All of my virtual assistants that do my work for me at $2 an hour, they work in different countries. They find me deals. It's all online. When I first started in this business back in the 80s, I had to go to the courthouse to do this research. You don't have to do that anymore. The world has changed, and there's more profit. It's a speed of execution, or speed of implementation, correct? Depending on how you want to look at that. Who here thinks that you could implement and go out and find one of these deals and do it in less than a week, put it together? Guys, it's not hard. But there's two spots I said that you're going to mess it up. Anybody remember what they are? Paperwork. And you're trying to lowball way too much, right? Go at 50 cents on the dollar, get your first deal, get confidence, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, this stuff works. So your confidence goes up, your bank account goes up, which means later on, as you gain more experience, you can offer and make a bigger spread. But in the beginning, why fight it? Those are two areas that people will mess it up. So let me leave you all with this. So we're going to have a little bit of fun. You all want to have a little fun? Yeah. All right, everybody stand up for a second. So I'm going to leave you with this. So I want you, everybody, to do me a favor and look to the person next to you and say the following. I sure am glad that I don't look like you. Thank you very much.
JT mentioned to you last night, for those of you who were around, and I know most of you were there,